Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Christina Langell. Earlier this week, Christina had the opportunity to report on something that is emerging in Pennsylvania, and she referred to it as the biotechnology revolution. So tell us more about what that means.
Yes, I will say I did refer to it that way because the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology referred to it that way. It's pretty interesting. Pennsylvania has been trying to position itself as a leader in biotechnology. Certainly that's been a goal of Governor Josh Shapiro. He has been really promoting life sciences and talking about investment into those areas. And that's kind of a natural fit for Pennsylvania. And this ties in a lot with what you've been writing about in terms of our big research universities. But we do have very big research universities that have specialized in developing, especially medical technologies and other sorts of biotechnologies. And we also have a pretty big focus on defense research and production. So those two things are really what kind of come together in this bioindustrial revolution, and agriculture. It would be like a third arm of that is certainly very important in Pennsylvania. So we're a really prime place to develop a mindset of being behind this bio revolution. A big focus of the national government is to develop this technology essentially in a very short window of time before China can. And they're pretty explicit. It's not before anyone else. It's specifically, they perceive it to be a race between China and the United States.
You mentioned at the beginning the National Security Commission and their involvement in this, and they had a report of recommendations, correct? Can you get into a little bit more about that as it, relates to the global competition with China?
Yes. So they released a report with recommendations for how the federal government can support biotech to really compete with China. China has been very good about developing in this particular area. And what we have seen in the past few years, both here and there, is that AI has pushed this sort of technology forward at light speed. So anything that we, had ideas that we'd be able to do 5-10 years ago, as you saw things like CRISPR and gene editing start to really take off. Now that AI can help scientists do things essentially faster, it's really just changed everything. So they kind of see it as, again, a pretty short window of time. Basically, I think about 5 years that we have to sort of establish dominance in this field before China, I suppose, gets out of our reach in terms of, I'm not sure what that means specifically, what that would look like for us. In the report, it describes it as like, well, China could basically withhold medication from us. They could cure cancer and not let us have it. They could figure out how to feed people with very little, and we would starve here in a dust bowl. Or they would have superhuman military and we would be stuck with just regular people. I'm not sure what of that are things that China said that they would do versus just sort of, if we're brainstorming ideas that could happen, this is what could happen. Either way, we definitely want to make sure that we are in a position so that if that does happen, we want to prepare for the worst, of course. So in the event that someone else develops technology and decides that their whole purpose in life of this technology is going to be to crush the United States, then we want to have it first.
And not just crush us, but crush us with a robot army. I mean, when you take bets on how the world was going to end, people used to laugh at others who would be like, oh, it's going to be like the robots are going to take us over. But that report, in that the most lighthearted of sense kind of is going that far to say that it's this bleak. We need to do something. But there's also, I wonder how much of that is administration dependent. Obviously, Trump has very hard line stances against China. He has a lot of policies that are meant to undermine their economy and stop the impact that they have on our economy. And so do you think, I mean, this report came from Representative Houlahan, who...
Yes, Houlahan hosted the event, which had the NSCEB. And that is a bipartisan group of legislators. And they were appointed before Trump came back into office. So it is a very bipartisan issue. Even if you hear Josh Shapiro talk about it, when he announced the data centers that are being built in Luzerne and Bucks County, he was very explicit about these things, these technologies being built in the United States and not in China, and winning that race. So I think it's a very bipartisan thing. It's not a specifically Republican or one administration or another. As you mentioned, Houlahan, she's a veteran. She's herself, she is an engineer. So STEM is very important to her. And she is a Democratic congressional rep from a, southeastern Pennsylvania, pretty mixed area when it comes to people's political ideologies, as most of Pennsylvania is. So I do think it's something that's important to a lot of people. And not to get too personal on this, but I remember when I was a kid, I actually grew up in her district. And when I was a kid, I remember having an assembly where they talked to us in middle school about China beating us. And they weren't this explicit, like this technology, I don't think we had our finger on the pulse of what it was going to be. But I remember being told that we needed to beat China. So I think it's been a priority for a lot of people for a long time.
That messaging has certainly been out there, because I remember hearing about how much time Chinese students spend in school and how hard that they work how hard that they supposedly work compared to American students. Although if you look at certain parameters, they do put in more hours and they have different focuses. And we do have a lot of immigration from that country, with professionals in top fields. That is the truth. And, we've, as you mentioned before, another research series that we've done, we are now, losing a lot of top talent, or at least they're considering leaving to go work in China because of the concerns about research cuts to universities. So there really is this back and forth between our economies, and this fear that we will succumb to fall to second place to China's first place. And that's not to say that there wouldn't be disastrous consequences for us. We can't say for sure. Withholding medicine, I don't mean to undermine that or downplay something that serious, but we don't know what we don't know, and rhetoric's been pretty heated over the last few years, and tensions have been very high. So if it's a bipartisan issue, it definitely sounds like we are moving in a direction of very seriously trying to do something here, trying to get on track to a point where we feel comfortable that this isn't going to happen. Like we both said, it feels like it's been that way my entire life, but the proliferation of AI has really stepped this up, right?
Yes. And regardless of what any other country does, I think it is really cool to think about a future where we have the technology to feed people and have the agricultural framework to really, really be able to create sustainable, a healthier, sustainable world for ourselves, both in terms of our medicine, our food supply. And then of course there's the defense element, but these are really cool things. I think we all want our kids to be able to not have to worry about the same kinds of diseases, or not have to worry about whether or not there will be food shortages in the future.
Right. Absolutely. Those are all excellent points. All right, Christina, thanks for joining us today. To keep up with this story and more, follow us at thecentersquare.com/Pennsylvania.